Yo YouTube! This is a video for Wednesday the 13th of March, which was yesterday. It won't be very long because I only did one job. Let me tell you about that day. So I was tramping out just off the A1M, sort of west of Middlesbrough, and I sort of woke up at some unknown time, but I wasn't fully awake, so I thought I'd wait until I felt like I was ready to open my eyes. So I dozed for a bit. There's a bit of traffic noise outside, but I was far enough from the road to not worry about it, and did that for a while. And when I opened my eyes and looked at my phone, it was nearly 10 o'clock, which was quite surprising. So I must have slept pretty well. And I was definitely warm enough. It wasn't very cold last night, and I definitely was. It was quiet enough to get a decent sleep. So it's a late start. I got myself all packed up and ready for the day, and by about 10:40 I was ready to look for jobs and bid on jobs. And there wasn't an awful lot coming out of where I was, but a job did come up from Darlington, and I was about 20 minutes away from it, and it's for a small van, but it was going into London. And I wouldn't usually like to do that, but it was quite a decent length of trip. It was 261 miles, 261 miles. So I put on a bid of £240, 240, and thought that would be okay for like the first job of the day. I might even have time for a second job. I got a call at 11:10, and I was given that job. I was 20 minutes away exactly, and 11 dead miles away from the pickup point. So I made my way immediately to the pickup point, which was really interesting. I'm trying to remember the name. It was something like D-Side International Airport, but it wasn't really an airport that I didn't see any planes. It was more like an industrial estate. There may have been an airport nearby, but when I drove into the sort of gated area, I thought I was going to drive into an airport, but it felt like I was driving into an industrial area. There was even some houses at the start inside the gates, so it was more of a disused airfield than an active one, I think. Anyway, I found my pickup point really easily. It was a single box being taken down to Wimbledon, the actual place they play tennis, rather than an area of London. So I picked that up, created my own pod, and left. And I left the site at 11:45. And at that point, when I put my trip in Google Maps, it was saying my arrival time was going to be in the region of about 5:15, 5:30, something like that. So I rounded it up from 5:30 to 6 o'clock and put that as my ETA. It may have been 5 o'clock ETA, and then I went up by an hour to 6 o'clock. Can't remember quite what it was. But anyway, I knew that whatever the ETA was saying at that point in time, by the time I got to London, it could be radically different because of the traffic. So I made my way down the A1M. I had a couple of options. I could either go A1M or M1. And I chose the A1M route. It was slightly more direct and about 5 minutes slower than the other route. But I just didn't trust that it would have... I thought that the A1M would be more likely to stay open and clear all the way down than the M1 would. So that was my choice. And I made my way down that road, and then about an hour or hour and a half in, I got to Wetherby, and I was getting quite peckish, and I was needing the toilet. Stopped at the local Morrison's, which isn't far from the main road, and got some food, went to use the toilet, and had a little bit of a break, to be honest. Probably was there for about half an hour. And then when I left, my ETA was 6 o'clock to get to Buckingham. And then I just travelled all the way down to London. On the way, I had a phone call about 3 hours in from the shipper asking me my time of arrival, and I said it'd be around about, at this point it was about 6:15, and they said that they were closed at 6, and I thought there's not really any way I'm going to get there for 6. So the shipper contacted the customer and then got an alternative address to deliver to in the SW area, not far from where I was meant to go. So it was a residential address that was then diverted to go to with this package. And I carried on driving. About an hour later, I had a call from the shipper again asking for my ETA. And I said 2 hours exactly, because that's what it was at the time. But I was mindful that on Google Maps it was showing me as 2 hours, but it was in orange. My road that I was on at the moment was perfectly clear, the A1M, but at some point on that journey it was going to get more congested. So that 2 hours was what it was at the moment, but it could have changed. It has, going into London, it changes very quickly. It doesn't take very much for the track J time to go up. So I was sort of saying, well, this is 2 hours at the moment, but that could change. And I had a comment from the shipper along the lines of, oh, it has changed. So I got the impression that they thought I was running late, and I felt that a half an hour's break on a 5.5 hour journey was a reasonable thing to do. I didn't say this, I just thought this. So I think that they thought I was being too slow. They didn't say anything, but I thought it was reasonable to have at least one break from Darlington to London. And also, I wondered, are they going by the CX analysis of the time? The CX booking said it took 4 hours and 26 minutes to get from Darlington to London, which is obviously absolute nonsense. So, the pickup was meant to be between 11 and 12. I was off site by 11:45, so I wasn't late picking up. And I think they would have preferred me to be there by 5, but even if I'd not stopped and picked up at 12, I wouldn't have got there for 5, sorry. It was definitely a good 5.5 hour journey. Anyway, I'm just surmising that they weren't very happy about things. And I think in hindsight, it's probably because the customer was asking them what are they going to be putting pressure on them, rather than the shipper themselves. Because when I did eventually get to the residential address, the person who took the parcel off me, the person who came to the door sort of made a comment about, you've had a long journey, haven't you? And I took it as being not, I'm looking out for your welfare, but more kind of like, what's taking so long? That's how I heard it. But she's very polite, but I would sort of classify it as passive aggressive. And I said to her, there was an accident, but there was an accident on the, so there was roadworks on the A1M, that was true. That delayed me by about half an hour. And it took me an hour to go the last 10 miles, which is true, that's always true. It wasn't a surprise to me. I mean, that's always the case in London, central London, to go anywhere in a car. So I just sort of explained that, and I didn't say anything else. And then she said, "Can you bring this through for me? Because it's quite heavy." I lifted it up, and it wasn't that heavy a box, but I carried it through to the kitchen for her, put it on the side, and she was kind of fussing about it, saying, "Oh, is there any paperwork inside?" It was a sealed box, and I said I didn't know. I wasn't given any paperwork, and she was saying, she said she saw the fragile sticker on it. I said, "Oh, I hope it's not damaged." And I thought, what did I say to that? I said to her, I looked after it in the van. It's been looked after, so I'm sure it's fine. So yeah, she offered me a drink and I think something to eat, but I was happy not to. So I wanted to get out and get back away. Oh yeah, I arrived at her at 6:10, and luckily it was a tourist residential road, and in London often it's hard to park after hours, but there was a pretty decent parking spot on the road I could drive into to offload rather than parking in the middle of the street, which I was going to have to do. I thought, parking in the middle of the street and block the whole street. So got there in the end. You know, it takes as long as it takes, to be honest. You know, I cannot alter the time-space continuum. You know, it takes a certain amount of time to travel a certain distance at a certain speed, and then when you add on traffic in London, you know, an average of 10 miles an hour through London is not bad going. So I suspect that it was the customer giving the shipper a bit of grief about the timing rather than the shipper being bothered. I did wonder if I get bad feedback, but I did get good feedback today, and it was just normal positive feedback. So I don't think the shipper had any issues in the end. Anyway, a bit of anyway. So that was it. So by then, 6:10, I was in London, and I thought I was just going to have to drive home. That was my plan, to be honest. My plan was, I was near Darlington. I wanted to get home for that night. So the trip to London was basically a kind of Hail Mary, get a massive job in, £240, one job, and just see what happens at the end of the day. If I get anything else on the way back, it's a bonus, but I'm going to assume I'm not going to get anything back. And that was the case. I drove home after that. I got home at about 8:30. No, sorry, about 9 o'clock, sorry. And my stats are as follows. Oh yeah, I did fill up with fuel at some point. When was that? That was as I got home. Just as I got home, I filled up with fuel. So I basically had an empty tank, so I filled it up. So my new average fuel price for this week is 15.92 pence per mile. Yesterday, on the Wednesday, I drove 381 miles, 381, and I worked for exactly 11 hours, so quite a short day for me. I earned £240, 240 gross, from one CX job, and I spent £60 and 46 pence on fuel, which meant that left me after fuel with a net income of £179 for that day. And it got me home, and it was a late start, so not brilliant, but it could have been worse. So I got to sleep in my own bed last night, and then ready for the new day. I didn't win a job for this morning, but I'll talk about that in today's video, later on today. Yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about today. It's going to be quite short today. I think that's just it. I like going to the northeast. It is tough sometimes to get work out, but it's definitely an area I would never avoid. Yeah, there is plenty of, if you wait long enough, there's plenty of work coming out of there. The night before, if I'd stayed in Gateshead, I probably would have got a better job, but who knows? It is what it is, isn't it? You roll your dice and you take your chances. So, thank you very much for watching or listening to this video, and I shall see you, or talk to you at least, later on tonight. Farewell, friends.